guys, it's Gina from Orchid and Opal Jewelry and Beads, and I'm here today with another tutorial. I shared this bracelet before two of my jewelry updates back. I had several different bracelets I had shared with you guys and had promised that I would do a tutorial on this bracelet. This was a design that I came up with on my own. You know, once in a while I just play around with my beads and want some kind of a bead weaving project that's not difficult. And you know, sometimes it doesn't come together, but sometimes it does. And this is the product of me just playing around with the beads, and I really love how it turned out. It fits together very well, and it's a great way to use those 2-hole Czech square glass beads. You'll notice that I've also used 4mm bicones. These are just the Chinese crystal. And if you're subscribed to the Bargain Bead Box, you know that they send a lot of those 4mm Chinese crystal beads. And I also used some 3mm fire polish beads. And a lot of you guys are also subscribed to the Dollar Bead Box and bag, so you have no shortage of the 3mm fire polish beads. So if that's the case, I whipped this up to give you an idea and a simple bead weaving project of how you could put these beads together, as well as using some seed beads, of course. And it's a fun little project. So if you're interested, then let's get started. To make about a 7-inch bracelet, you'll need the following items: 15 2-hole square beads in the 6mm size, 28 4mm crystal bicones, 28 3mm fire polished beads, 11 seed beads, a clasp of your choice, and jumper split rings. You'll need approximately 6 feet of beading thread. I use 6-pound Fireline. You'll need a needle, and it will help to have some jewelry pliers and of course some scissors. So here is a close-up of one of the ends of the bracelet, and you'll notice that to start it out we'll need to make a loop, and that's what we're going to be attaching our spring or jump ring to, our clasp. So that's what we're going to do to get started. And I just want to give a shout out to one of my viewers, and her handle was called Just Me, and she was actually the one that suggested first, I believe, that I call it the love bracelet, which I thought was adorable, because it does look like the little X's and O's in a way. So I thought that was really cute, but I wanted to give her credit for that. I had originally called it the X's and Squares bracelet because I didn't really have another name for it at the time, but I think that's really adorable. So thank you for that. I always love hearing from you guys in the comments and, you know, getting your take on things, because it's good to have a different perspective. So anyway, the first step is we're going to make this loop. And after you have your needle threaded, you're going to be picking up 12 of your seed beads. So let's do that. I'm going to zoom in on here so you can see it here. Okay, so make sure I have about 12 seed beads, and we'll go from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we have 12 seed beads, and we want to pick up our, if you're using a split or a jump ring, it's a good idea to pick that up now, just so you don't have to add that on later. Just, you know, takes away that little step. So pick that up, and then pick up one of your 2-hole square beads and go through any side of those holes, and you'll bring it down, leaving yourself about a 6 or 8 inch tail, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, so you have this right here currently, and what you want to do is you want to go through all those beads again. So going back from, here's your tail where you started, you're going to go back through, and that's going to make a loop. Okay, so I got it started, and just kind of hang on to your tail so that it doesn't shorten up on you. Just pull it slowly so your thread doesn't knot up. I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay. Alright, so you should end up with a little something like this, and you'll need to go through your square bead one more time to make it a full loop. Okay. Alright. And pull that nice and tight, leaving your tail on this end that you'll be able to weave in later. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and make a little half hitch knot right here, and the way I'm going to do that is by putting my needle under that little bit of thread and holding it with my thumb, and we're going to pull until we get a little loop. Okay, and then I'm going to take my needle and just go through the loop while I'm still holding that and pull it. That way we've got ourselves a nice tight start, and it's not going anywhere right now. Okay? Okay, so the next step is we're going to be going along the center of the bracelet, and also the sides. We're going to be adding our bicones and the seed beads to the sides, not the fire polish yet, just the bicones and some seed beads, and then we're going to go back through with the fire polish, and then we're going to finish up by making these crosses on our bracelet. So in order to complete the next step of the bracelet, we want to, got our thread coming out of this first hole here, we want to go ahead and put your needle through the next hole right here. Okay, because that's where you're going to get positioned to get the center portion of your bracelet going. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to string on one seed bead, one bicone, one seed bead, and then you're going to string on another 2-hole bead, and then you're going to string on a seed bead, a bicone, and another seed bead, just like that. So you should have this pattern on your needle right here, and you're going to go back around to this open hole right here. So you're going to go through the opposite hole of where you're currently coming out of, just like that. Okay, and you see that formed a loop. I'm going to pull it a little bit tighter, and that's our tail thread back there. So it formed a loop. Now we're going to go through the seed bead, the bicone, the seed bead, and then up through this first hole that we get to of the next square bead. Okay, so we're coming out of this hole right here. We're going to go through this thread path, up this hole, and then we're going to end up going back down and creating another loop. So let's go through those beads. Okay, I got the beads on the side that we're going through, and give it a nice pull so your work stays taut and go up through that first set of holes on your next square bead, just like that. And just like we did over here, go down through the next hole. And don't worry about the thread that is right here, because you're going to be covering that up when we come back through with the 3mm beads. So we're coming out of this side again at the bottom, the second set of holes, and we're going to be picking up, just like we did before, a seed bead, a bicone, and another seed bead, another tile bead, a seed bead, a bicone, and a seed bead. So again, you should have this pattern right here on your needle. And I just want to mention that the tile or the square beads that I'm using here today, they have the same pattern essentially on both sides. Now, some square beads, you will find that they are different on either side. So if you are using square beads that are different on either side, then you'll want to make sure as you're completing your bracelet, going down and making those loops, that you have the same side facing out that you want to have facing out. And here's an example. So these beads here, of course, they're different colors or shades, but you can see on the back, they're clear. So some of the square beads are like that. The ones I'm using are not. So it doesn't matter what side I pick up, but just keep that in mind if you are using beads like these that are different. Okay, so back to what we were doing. We have this pattern on our needle. We're coming out of the bottom of the second holes on this square bead, and we're going to go through the opposite side of where we're coming out. And then pull it nice and snug, and you have yourself another loop. So you can get an idea of how this bracelet is starting to take shape. And just like we did before, we're going to go through this set of beads that is right after where your needle is coming out of on the side. So you're going to go through a seed bead, a bicone, and a seed bead, and then up through that first hole on the square bead, just like that. You getting the hang of that portion? Okay, and I need to pull mine a little bit tighter because I see it's a little bit loose. So make sure your work is nice and snug as you go. Okay, so now we're coming up out of this hole again right here, and I'm just trying to focus, and then we're going to go back down our square just like we did before. Okay, and you guessed it, we're going to be picking up a seed bead, a bicone, a seed bead, and another square bead, a seed bead, a bicone, and a seed bead. Okay, just like we did before, this is what we're going to be doing the entire length of the bracelet. So this bracelet, the way that I have it set up, makes about a 7-inch bracelet. Once you have all the beads strung and you have, you know, your clasp, I'm going to use a toggle clasp, but it makes about a 7-inch bracelet. Now, if you want your bracelet longer, of course, you'll be adding more of these loops to your bracelet. If you want it shorter, you just won't use as many. So, we just completed another loop. Let's do another one. So down through the second hole. And we need to pick up some more beads. Seed bead, bicone, seed bead, square, seed bead, bicone, seed bead. Okay? And you're getting the hang of it, I am sure. So back down through the opposite side of the square that we're working in. And it's starting to take shape. And we're going to go through the beads on the side, the seed, the bicone, the seed bead, and up the square bead. Pull it nice and tight. There we go. And it's looking good. So we're coming out of this first hole. We're going to go down through the second hole. Down through the second hole. There we go. Okay. So just keep repeating this pattern. I found that if I use about 15 of these square beads, that makes about the right size for me. And as we said, just go ahead and adjust that as needed for the size that you want to make your bracelet. So let's meet back here, once you get to your 14th bead, or say your second to the last one, we'll meet back and I'll show you how to make your loop on the other side and how to continue your bracelet. Alright guys, so we're almost at the end of the central portion of our bracelet. I'm going to go through this square bead. I've got one more to pick up, so we're going to do our typical round here with our seed bead, our bicone, seed bead, picking up our last square bead, then our pattern, our seed, our 4mm, and our seed bead. And still on our last round, we're going to go back through the opposite direction, just like we had been. Pull it, make that final loop, go through the seed bead, bicone, seed bead, just like we had been doing. Go back up through the square, the first hole that you get to, and pull your work nice and tight. And this would be a great time to make sure that your bracelet is long enough. And if you need to add more length, you can go ahead and do that by adding more of those rounds. So if you're satisfied with the length, we're coming out of this first hole of our square bead, and we want to go down through the second hole. This is where we're going to make our loop that's going to be on the other end of our bracelet. It's going to look just like that. So have your other split or jump ring handy if you intend to go ahead and add that while you're making your loop. So just like we did before, I want you to just string on 12 of those seed beads. And then string on your split or jump ring. I'm going to make sure I have what I intend to have on here, and let's see, yep, 12. Okay, and to make a loop, we're going to go through the opposite end of our square bead, just like that, and voila, we have a loop. Okay, now to give this some extra strength, something I like to do is I like to make, after I've pulled it nice and tight, another little half hitch knot right there. Okay, so put your thumb on that square bead and the loop so that it holds it, and pull the string nice and tight, and then put your needle underneath the string right there where it's coming out of, or right next to it. And I'm just showing you how I'm doing that knot. And this is optional. I like to do this to kind of keep the work tight as I go, but it's not something you have to do. Okay, and then you're going to want to go around the loop again. And this will secure your loop at the end of your bracelet, because you definitely want your bracelet to be extra secure at that point, since this is where you will be tugging on it the most with the toggle. Alright, so you reinforced your loop, and you're going to want to be coming out of one of the seed beads. So if you're coming out of the square like I am, I'm going to go through this loop one more time and then out this final seed bead, and I'm going to continue the pattern along the sides of the bracelet. And the pattern we're going to be continuing is the portion where we're going to be adding the 3mm beads all along. See these yellow or golden beads? Those are what we're going to be adding in between each of the two seed beads on the sides. And that's these beads that I have down here, which you'll see when I get my needle in the right position. Alright, so there we go. So I'm coming out of the seed bead right here, and I'm going to be picking up one of my 3mm fire polish beads, and I'm going to go through the next seed bead, bicone, and seed bead. See that? And that's going to bind our sides together, which is what we want, and it's going to help us create a nice, cohesive, and strong bracelet. So you see that bead popped right into place there. It's still a little loose, but that's okay. We're going to continue to pull on it and tighten it as we go down. So coming out of your seed bead here after your previous bicone, you see the space right here next to the square. That's where we want to pop in another one of our 3mm beads. Okay, so pick up a 3mm and then go through the next seed bead, bicone, and seed bead, just like that. And pull so that it pops into place. So you see how it's filling in those spaces on either side of those square beads. Okay, so let's continue that pattern. Pick up another one. Go through the seed bead, bicone, seed bead. And we're going to do this all along both sides of the bracelet. See how it's forming that pattern? So keep going. It's just like you're sewing it together. And just keep pulling it snug as you go. It may seem to be a little loose, but it will tighten up once you get to the other side especially, and once you snug it up with those beautiful seed bead X's that we do around the top of the bracelet. So I'm getting toward the end of one side, just like that. And I've got one more little gap to fill. And when I get to this side, I'm actually going to go, instead of, you know, like we were going through the little pattern of beads on the side, I'm going to go all the way around the loop so that that positions my needle right where I want it to continue down the other side of the bracelet. Not to mention the fact that this also, again, will help to strengthen this loop on the end, which is always a good thing. Okay, so our needle's positioned right where we want it in order to continue the pattern that we just did on the other side. So again, pull it snug and continue on. Alright guys, so you should have something that looks like this, and we're at the point where we can add our last 3mm bead on the side. And again, just like we did on the other side, you can pop that bead into place and then go through the loop again, and then end up right at this seed bead that is right after the very first 2-hole bead that you get to right there. So you go through the loop, through the fire polish, and through one seed bead, and that's where we're going to get started doing our X pattern. Okay, so let's go through the loop. I've just put on my last fire polish bead. You may have to just do a couple beads at a time. Okay, there we go. So we want to be coming right out of that seed bead there, right after the first fire polish bead. And that's where we're going to start our X's, okay? So we're going to make a little X going like this with seed beads. The first thing we want to do is we want to pick up 5 of our seed beads. Okay, so you have 5 seed beads on your needle there, and you're going to be going through the opposite side on the diagonal. And what I mean by that is you're coming out of this seed bead here, and you're going to want to go back through the seed bead that's diagonal from it. Okay, so once you've got 5 seed beads strung on your needle, you're coming out of this bead, go back through like you're going back toward the end of the bracelet you just did, the seed bead, the bicone, and then go back through this seed bead. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, just like that, and then pull, and that's gonna pop your first cross there into place. Then what we want to do is we want to string on 2 more seed beads, remember coming out from here, and then we're going to go through this middle seed bead and then string on 2 more and then continue this way. So once you have your first little cross in place there, string on 2 more seed beads, and then go to your very center seed bead. So remember we strung on 5, you're going to go through the third one, which would be the middle one. So this one right here. So you're going to have 2 on either side of it, and you're going to go just up through that like so. Alright? And then pull that nice and snug, and you see we have the bottom of this X. And it looks like I left off a seed bead, so let me go back and pop one back in, but that's reality, and that's what happens. Sometimes we make mistakes. So I added on 2 seed beads like I was supposed to do, going back through that center bead. That looks so much better now. Now we've got 2 seed beads here. We want to put 2 seed beads here. So after you're coming out of that middle seed bead, string on 2 more, and then go through this other seed bead at the diagonal right after this 4mm bicone at the top, and you'll go through the seed bead, the fire polish, and end up at this seed bead right here, okay? So we'll do that a few times and you can get the hang of it. So again, we're just completing our X. So we're going through this seed bead, the fire polish, and the seed bead on this side, okay? And that's going to help us pop those other 2 seed beads into place, just like that. And see, we have our little X. Alright, so we're coming out again at this seed bead here, and just like we did on this side, we're going to string on 5 seed beads, and then we're going to go up through this seed bead, this bicone, and the next seed bead, ending up right here. And that's going to pop our cross, one hatch of our cross into place, okay? So string on 5 seed beads. Okay, just like that. And you're going to go diagonally across that other little space you have to the seed bead that's diagonal from the one you're coming out of. And you're going to go through the seed bead, the bicone, and then the next seed bead. And that's going to pop those 5 into place. Okay? So you're coming out right here out of this seed bead on the end. Pick up 2 seed beads. Okay. Find your center, which is this one. The 3rd seed bead, or the middle one that you put into place when you just strung on your 5. And go right through it. So our X is almost complete. Now string on 2 more seed beads. And then you're going to go through this seed bead at the top, on the top left, the fire polish, and the next seed bead. And that's going to complete another X. See that? So it's really starting to take shape. And this is the exact pattern we're going to do all the way down till we get to the very end. And that's really all there is to it. See, it's not that difficult. So, once again, we're at a point where we're going to string on 5 seed beads. Go through the seed bead diagonally from it and up through those 3 beads, and then pull. Get our tail out of the way. And by the way, you're free to weave in the tail at any time. I actually like to do that sometimes because the tail can get in the way as you're working on something. So sometimes it's nice not to wait till the end to weave that tail back in. Sometimes it's nice to go ahead and do it so it just gets out of the way. Alright, so we're going to finish our X. I've got 2 seed beads strung on, and we're going to go through the seed bead, the fire polish, and the seed bead right up here on the left. Just like so. And look how cute that is. It's really coming together. Alright, so continue that pattern all the way to the end of your bracelet, and we'll meet back here and we will finish it up. Alright guys, so look how beautiful this bracelet is shaping up. I just love it. And the fact that it is flat It makes it a much more comfortable bracelet than you know, some of the more chunky ones, even though I like chunky bracelets too. Sometimes it's nice to have something that is flat like this that is very comfortable. So I'm just finishing up my final X. I'm going to go through the last seed bead and then through the fire polish, and I'm going to go through this loop again. Okay, and you should probably do the same thing. That's a great way to end this bracelet, is to continue on through that loop. And I hope you, you know, were able to kind of pull things nice and tight. Look how tight this is. Not too tight where it's, you know, not bendable. It's got a lot of flexibility, but there's no gaps. So that's really what you want, is you want to have a bracelet with no gaps in between the beads. So I'm just going to show you how I'm going to finish off this bracelet, and I like to make at least 3 little knots and continue going through some of the beads to hide those knots. So I just made a little loop like I did before. I made a little, some people call them a half hitch knot. I'm going to go through some more beads just like this. And I'm going to make another little knot, probably right here. Careful not getting any of the beads tangled up in that. Alright. Keep going. And you can really make your knots anywhere you'd like. There's no rule on that. You know, just best practice would be to make several sporadic knots and then go through some of the beads in order to hide the knots. You can see I haven't tucked my tail in yet, tucked in the tail. But what I will do is I'm going to put a needle on this tail piece, and I'm going to do the same thing that I just did with the thread that I'm working with, and I'll just follow some of the thread paths. I'll make a little knot, go through some beads, make a little knot, and so on and so forth until I feel that it is nice and secure, and then I will snip off the excess thread. So you can really go through as many as you want. You can go, I mean, if you have a good excess of thread left over, you can go through the whole thing again if you want. I mean, if you want to make it like super secure. But you know, because I'm using Fireline, it's a nice strong thread, and I feel that my loops are nice and reinforced, you know, like 3 times the loops on either side. I feel good about that. So I'm probably just gonna kind of end my thread that I'm working with, you know, about right here, and I'll be good with that. I like to end my thread not at the ends of my piece if I can help it. It's just you know, something I like to do. It buries the end of the thread in a part of the bracelet that's not going to get as much wear. So I made a final knot, and I am going to snip off this thread carefully like that, and I'm going to put my needle on my tail and finish up that portion. So if you don't want to see me finish up with the tail, you can go ahead and skip ahead to the very end of the video if you want to see me put the clasp on. If not, if you're comfortable at this point, you are welcome to stop the tutorial and finish your bracelet however you like. I am sure they look beautiful, and I'd love to see them. So if you ever want to post anything that you've made where I can see it, feel free to just share it on my Facebook page, Orchid and Opal Jewelry on Facebook, and I would love to see it because I bet there are some really pretty creations out there, really pretty color combinations. There we go. It's going to continue down the side, I think. It's a little snug right there. Trying to get through those beads. Okay. We'll see if I can make one more. Sometimes the thread gets so tiny. Yep. One more, and then I'm going to just hide the little knot that I made through these beads and clip off this little portion of thread. So at this point, we're ready to attach our clasp, and I'm going to use this, I thought it was appropriate, this toggle clasp that came in the recent July dollar bead box. And it's antique brass, but because this is called the Love Bracelet, I thought, how appropriate. Wouldn't that be cute? So I love a toggle clasp on a bracelet, and that is what I am going to attach to this one. So let's see, I'm going to use I finally got some split ring openers, you guys. I in previous tutorials did not have one, so I'm so glad to have one finally. I was like, I've got to invest in a split ring opener as much as I use them. It's ridiculous not to have one, and it has been so handy. Okay, so I've got this portion on one side. I should use my pliers to get that on. I didn't have them within reach. And I'm going to attach the other side of the toggle. Pop open our split ring with our handy opener. I love this thing. Just like that. And it's kind of a big split ring, so I can just kind of use my fingers to pull it down. And here we are. So, how lovely. I'm really, really pleased with how this turned out. I hope you guys are pleased with how your bracelets turned out. And like I said, I would love to see them. See if I can get this on for you guys and model it on my wrist if the toggle clasp will cooperate, which it did. Alright, so there we go. That is our X's and squares, or love bracelet, as you lovely viewers pointed out to me. And I'm probably going to add a couple more little jump rings just to make it a little looser, because it fits, it's just snug on me. But, you know, it all depends on the size of the clasp and rings you're using, and that's the beauty of split and jump rings, is if you need to add a couple more, add a couple more. No big deal. That's so cute. I love the love bracelet. Alright guys, well I want to thank you so much for being with me on this another tutorial, and I hope to see you very soon on my next video. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I would also love for you to follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Etsy. Orchid and Opal Jewelry. Thanks for watching!